I'll be with you shortly. Just finishing the workout. Feel the gains. It's the Sigma 35mm F1.2. Quite the heavy lens. That was a ridiculous intro. This is the Sigma 35mm F1.2 for Sony E-mount, if you haven't already gathered from that ridiculous intro. I don't want to call this a review, I want to call this more a series of tests with lots of photo and lots of video. Thank you to Sigma Canada for letting me use this for the past couple of weeks. Let's get the elephant in the room out the way. That's the 7200 f4. It's a big lens, very, very big lens. Heavy too, at 1090 grams, and with a big lens comes a hefty price tag as well. It comes in at 1500 US or 2000 Canadian. So it's not going to be for everybody. Now that price actually gets you Sigma's very first f1.2 prime lens, and it is one of their art lenses as well, so from their premium line of lenses. I've never owned a 35mm prime before, so that focal length is a little bit new to me. I have a 55 Zeiss f1.8 and I have the 24 G Master, which I'm shooting on right now. I was a little skeptical as to whether I'd like the 35mm focal length, but shooting almost exclusively with this on my camera, the A7 III, for the past 2 weeks, I can say it felt like a very natural focal length, and I really quite enjoyed using it. For the most part, when I want to take a photo, I was already in kind of the range I needed to be in, so I actually quite like the 35 focal length now. And now I really want a 35. Hold that thought. So let's just touch briefly on the build quality of this lens, and it is absolutely fantastic. It's definitely up there with Sony's GM lenses. It's everything you would expect from a Sigma art lens. It's dust and moisture resistant. It has a smooth declicked aperture ring, which you can, with a click of a switch, turn into a clickable aperture ring. I really, really love a declicked aperture ring. It feels very, very nice to use. Has your manual focus, autofocus switch on the side there, which is always a handy thing to have. And then it has a button which you can assign to do whatever you want, much like Sony's G Master and G lenses. I personally use this to turn my autofocus on. I also played around with using it for IAF as well. So I've got some tests to show you today. There was a few requests from people when I put a question out on Instagram, things people want to know about this lens. And then there's the regular tests that I like to do on this channel, the basic things, the things that are important to me and a lot of you guys as well. So let's talk about the 1080p video. And there was a reason I specifically did this test. When I shoot with the 24mm G Master in 1080, I often question whether I use the right settings. It's so sharp that it can often look like 4K video. So I really wanted to see how the 1080p video with this was.
One thing I really like with the 24mm G Master is I often question whether I shot 1080p video in 4K because it looks that sharp. So I decided to shoot a little bit here in 1080p. Pulling a weird face there, aren't I? I can tell. And yeah, this is how sharp it is in 1080p, in case you're wondering. This is an f2. Hopefully the autofocus is keeping up with me. I'll just stand here a second so we can admire its 1080p video.
As you'll see, it's impeccably sharp, even in 1080. When this hits YouTube and it's compressed, it might not look quite as good, but you're still gonna see how beautiful this lens is to use at 1080. So if you're like me and you still shoot a lot of client work at 1080 and you just want it to look the absolute cleanest, sharpest that you possibly can, this is going to be a beautiful lens for doing that. And then how does the 4K video look for this? In one word, absolutely stunning. That's 2 words, isn't it? I wanted to show you the video in a little bit of a different way. I didn't have any client work to do the last couple of weeks that I could use this lens for, so in true Philip Bloom style, here's some video I shot with this lens in 4K on the A7 III. So it's an f1.2, Sigma's first as I mentioned at the beginning, prime lens that is an f1.2, and it's the first time I've ever used a lens that is an f1.2 as well. So a big thing that I wanted to see, and probably a lot of you are clicking on this video for, is to see how the bokeh is. Rather than me just telling you how great this lens looks at f1.2, here's some photos. You're not going to be shooting at f1.2 all the time. There's a time and a place for it, but when you need to, it's going to look amazing. Now, I've got to say, it's impeccably sharp. And I put this out on Instagram last week that this is probably the sharpest lens that I have ever used, and I honestly still stand by that. I spent the past 2 weeks mostly shooting at f1.2 because it's not a luxury that I normally have available to me. I don't have any lenses that are f1.2, so I just wanted to try it out. Even at f1.2, completely wide open, it is razor sharp. I'm going to show you some images that I'll put over the top of the video right here, and I'm going to zoom in so you can see exactly what I mean instead of me just going on and on. But you're probably going to get the idea from these images just how sharp this lens is. I don't think you could possibly want it any sharper than that, to be honest with you. And sharpness is something that some people like and some people don't. Having a really, really sharp image sometimes can't be that flattering. But if you like it, you're gonna absolutely love this lens. Here's some more photos that I shot over the past 2 weeks with this lens. There were some people asking about focus throw. Now what that is from when the lens isn't in focus to when it's in focus, how much do you have to turn the focus ring? So that's what focus throw is, and here is some tests.
Some of you wanted to see focus throw test. Get out of the way, bush. Some of you want to see focus throw tests. So what I've done is switch to the other angle, jerry-rigged up this little old follow focus thing, not follow focus, manual focus assist pole. I don't know what it's called. It's from years ago. They still have, and it's going to allow us to see where the focus throw is, so what the focus range is. And I'm going to focus on this little branch here and then the tree in the background too. Let's go to manual focus. So we're focused on the tree right now. So that's completely out of focus. That's the tree in focus according to focus peaking there. And then we are at f2.8 as well, just to let you know. Let's try the swinging chair. And now that is in focus. And now let's try the tree behind. And now the tree behind is in focus. So that's probably a distance, I would say, of about 18 feet from the tree to the branch. Let's go back. And it is all dependent on how quickly you turn the focus by a wire lens. Like if you go quick, it seems to come in focus a lot quicker, but if you go really slow, the focus takes a lot longer. Don't know if I like that. So you can see how the tree's in focus. I go really slow. It takes a long time for that tree to get in focus there. But if we go quick, it doesn't appear to have to move as much, which is kind of odd.
Obviously, as someone who shoots predominantly video, I was going to do some autofocus tests. Here are those now.
All right, so first up when it comes to autofocus tests is at f1.2. And I'll be totally honest with you right here, I do not have an ND filter on because the filter size of this thing is ginormous. And I don't have one that fits. And if I use step-up rings, then we'll have vignetting. And actually it'll be step-down rings, I guess, which I definitely don't want to use. So, don't know how this turns out because I do not have a monitor on here. If I use a monitor, then all kinds of things can happen with face tracking not working properly in IAF and all that stuff. So we're not using a monitor. Straight out the camera, 4K. I would consider this a pretty good real world example. All right, that is at f1.2. Let's go to f2.8. Just need to bring my ISO. Actually, just drop the shutter speed. That works. Now we're at f2.8. From what I've seen so far, at f1.4, it's pretty accurate. So if f1.4 is accurate, anything above is going to be good. All right, not gonna go higher than that.
Here's some more autofocus tests with me shooting handheld.
For the Insta360 on top, so you can see everything as I'm doing it. So let's get my exposure proper. We're at f2.8. I'm gonna drop to f1.2. I really like the transition from being in focus to not in focus. It's very smooth. It's almost like someone's actually pulling focus. Tree's pretty accurate. Look at my feet. Tree. All my exposures being done with shutter speed, the sin. Taking a little bit longer there. I'm quite close to the tree too. Does appear to be pretty accurate and quick, like for the most part. By the time you move it, it's pretty much caught up. What do you think, Coop?
It actually performed pretty well, as you'll see from that video. There was a couple of times where it lost me and then found me again, but when we're shooting wide open at f1.2, we're literally pushing it to its limits. The depth of field at 1.2 is pretty tiny, as you can imagine, so it sometimes finding me and then losing me is exactly what I expected it to do. That being said, when it does find me, it was smooth and seems to be, as you can see in the video, really quick at finding me. The higher you go up with the aperture, obviously the better it's going to get too. The minimum focusing distance of this is 30 centimeters, and I did a few tests with that, so you'll see me talking about that in the video. My eyeballing of measurements might be a little bit off.
The focusing distance of this is actually pretty good. So that branch right there, I am 8 inches from, roughly. That branch right there, right on the end, I'm like maybe 6 inches. Remember we're at f1.2 here as well, so the actual focal range, sorry, not the focal range, the depth of field is really narrow. Handles it pretty good. And I'm really impressed with that focusing distance too.
So I'm actually pretty sad that I have to send this back. I have fallen head over heels, madly in love with this lens and the focal length, 35mm. And now I really want it. but it's also incredibly expensive. I don't think I can justify spending that amount of money on this just yet. Now, of course, there are other 35mm lenses out there, which I'm going to be looking at too. And if you're wondering if I'm going to be talking about those lenses or comparing those lenses in this video, the answer is unfortunately no, because Gerald Undone has literally done that exact video and I don't even want to try. Any attempt that I make at that would be feeble in comparison. So if you are looking for comparisons of the 35mm, I'll link his video down below in the description box for you there. If you're not aware, Gerald Undone is a camera wizard, an encyclopedia of knowledge. I don't know how he has room for all that in his head, to be honest with you. It's not really that fair. So that's the Sigma 35mm f1.2. I really want this lens. If you have a lot of money to spend, or you want to abuse your credit card, I'll pop a link down below for you. Otherwise, I appreciate you watching. I'll see you guys in the next video. Come on, white balance, do your thing. Oh, okay, we're good. All right.
Autofocus tests, just to see how... Wait, I'm not even in autofocus, am I? Huh.
It's a Sigma 35mm f... Dying. This is a hat. Goes on my head. And these are the kinds of shots that I do when I'm testing out a new angle, which I don't know what's going to look like. Do me a favor and let me know what you think of this new look. Something I'm going to be mixing up with the regular angle, with the computer in the background and the picture and whatever. I'm still going to be using that, but I thought I'd try something out a little bit different, a bit more minimal. Let me know what you think. Also, this guy's coming in today, so look forward to that video coming. I'll see you later.